At this time, there is a Chinese course with 500 or more people that are participating. There are international students, and it is harder for them to learn because there must be translation. So the nature of translation is that the mind has to waver and move back and forth, and the vocabulary isn't exactly precise. The words are a little bit different that are used than the Thai words. Thai people have a great opportunity to listen to the Dhamma and understand it. But still, sometimes the message or the meaning veers and strays because the Buddha's era and having to bring the teachings all the way to this area, people have translated the Pali language, translated the scriptures, the Tipitaka, and so they have to make their word choices for the translations. The most complete or the best way to learn from the scriptures would be to learn the Pali language completely and then understand that. But we aren't at that level where we've learned this much theory and language. So we have to learn right on the playing field. It's like if we live on a land and we're in the agricultural area and we don't know what to do or the correct method, but we didn't study in detail, but we get just a little bit of information and knowledge and we give it a go, and then we can manage to grow some things, some trees. What we're looking for is to free the mind from suffering. And if we practice, we can do that. Buddhism isn't about anything else. It's just about what do we do in order to no longer suffer. Because that is the main problem in our lives. Some people say that a broken heart is the biggest issue. And if we have love, then we're happy. People think you have to break your heart, get your heart broken in order for things to be bad. Or if you have a good job, then you don't suffer, but only when you lose your job, then you suffer and have financial issues and feel stress and sadness. Sometimes we have pets, like a dog or a cat, and then they die and we feel bad and feel sad, or someone in our family like our children or have drug addictions. Parents suffer. Some of them are not only addicted, but they also become drug dealers and get arrested, go to prison. So the parents are suffering. It's quite amazing how other things in the world around us are having difficulty, and then we suffer, like our dog dies. We're not suffering, but we end up suffering because of things going around around us. When we were children and infants and babies, we depended completely on our parents for survival. We would have just been utterly helpless without them. And we have to work hard to arrive at being a normal, healthy human being. We had to rely on so many people and circumstances in order to get here. So we should take care of our parents as they took care of us. We owe them. In the past, there was a stream enterer that had a son, and he had a lot of bad friends, shady people, and wanted a lot of power. He ended up being Devadatta, one of the enemies of the Buddha that tried to take his power and would teach things incorrectly and create his own community. When they had their first child on the same day that his father died, the father was killed, and the lesson is about having to take care of our parents, that there are the highest evils or the most major infractions in Buddhism is killing the parents, killing an arahant, injuring the Buddha. When there was these tragedies, the king at the time was so stressed and couldn't sleep. He would go around looking for different teachings to help him and went to some strange teachings and communities. Some believed that killing was fine and had no negative effects, didn't think it was a sin to kill. Some schools believed in annihilation, that at the end of this life that there's just nothing, no existence. And so this king then finally was invited to learn from the Buddha after all these other unhelpful teachings. And the great famous doctor at the time, Jivaka, the doctor of the Buddha, invited him to come and meet the Buddha. When this king then came into the monastery, he saw there were so many monks. And there are so many monks in here, my goodness. And all these people, they believe in this Buddha. They don't trust me. Am I safe? And Jivaka, the doctor, said, yes, you're safe. Come on in. This is all from the second sutta after Brahmachara Sutta. So the king listened to the Buddha. We can read the sutta and see what he learned, but he gained a tremendous faith in Buddhism. He wasn't able to enlighten, though, however, because he had killed his father in the past. We have to take care of our parents and not abandon them. These days, so many people abandon their parents, the new youth. These days in Thailand, there's a huge population of elderly people over 60. It's an aging population. We have to be good examples if we're older, as we get older, to be a good example and take good care of our parents, so our children see that and then they take good care of us. There's some issues in families, like the wife doesn't like her stepmother, doesn't do good things for her. The mother is old and can't eat well, or doesn't eat cleanly, is dirty, and then the wife gets angry at her. We have children and love our children. So let's take good care of our parents, and our kids will know to take good care of us. Some kids even start preparing dishes in the homes in such ways that make it easier for the parents when they're older. Some of us believe our parents are well-to-do, but you never know what happens with currencies. It can fall very quickly. So we have to make a plan for our life and for our families. So how can we be, how can we survive in this changing world? And the future could be less stable.
อย่างเมื่อก่อนทำงานนะกะว่ามีเงินสัก2 ล้าน 3 ล้านเอาไปฝากธนาคารได้ดอกเบี้ย10%นะ
In the past, you'd get 10% interested on your savings. You have a few million baht, and then you can live for the rest of your life on the 10%, but don't get any interest these days. So then people end up doing things like cryptocurrency. They look so stressed and pale. These investors, these aren't easy things to invest in. And so life is difficult, a struggle, but let's prepare ourselves, have a proper plan for our lives, and prepare for the future. And even more than that, it's important to prepare our hearts for the future, because life might not go as I expected. So what do I need to do in order for I can arrive at some of these instabilities and difficulties in a way where the heart doesn't suffer? The suffering in our heart occurs from wanting, and all wanting comes from not knowing, not understanding the truth of life. That's called avijja, or ignorance, and it makes us then have wanting. And once there is wanting, there is immediately struggle internally, and thus suffering. This is a process of paticca samuppada, which is dependent origination. But this is just a summary. In order to actually see the entire chain of dependent origination, you'd have to be an arahant. We can read it and memorize it, but that doesn't get us very far. As we get older, we just forget. We have to understand that when we read something or memorize something, that's somebody else's knowledge. It's not our knowledge. It could be from whatever we read. It could be information coming from other great beings, and it can also be from not great beings. It could be from angels, it could be from spirits, but this is all other people's knowledge when we read, not ours. In the Tipitaka, there's actually words from angels, from different hermits and sages, and even from some spirits. They have different exclamations and expressions, but there are also arahants that have some exclamations in the Tipitaka, and it's just so amazing, so interesting to read what they say when they achieve arahantship at the moment of enlightenment, and what they say at that moment. It's really heartening to read. So in order to free our minds from suffering, we have to fix it not at the suffering, but at the cause of the suffering. So we have to understand the Four Noble Truths: suffering, the cause, cessation, and the path. And then once we understand the Noble Truths,
อย่างหยาบ
then we free
ความ
ourselves.
แก่ความเจ็บความตายเป็นทุกข์ความพลัดพ
So
ราก
what is
จากสิ่ง
suffering?
ที่รักการประสบ
Getting
กับสิ่ง
old,
ที่ไม่รัก
ill,
ปรารถนา
dying
สิ่งใดไม่ได้สิ่ง
are
นั้น
suffering.
อันนี้ก็เป็นทุกข์
Not getting what it is that we want to get, or being apart from the things that we
ความ
love,
ไม่สบายใจ
feeling
ความคับ
having
แค้น
a
ใจก็เป็นทุกข์
uncomfortable body and
อันนี้
uncomfortable
เป็นป
mind
รากฏการณ์ของทุกข์ซึ่งเราเข้าใจง่าย
are suffering. These are easy ways to understand
แก่แล้วทุกข์
what suffering is.
อันนี้
Being
เด็กๆ
old
ไม่
is
รู้
suffering. Kids don't understand that. You have to get older to know that.
คนแก่นะ
Older
เที่ยวตัว
people,
ผิดท่านิดเดียวยอกเลย
all you have to do is
เดินดี
turn or
ขาไม่
shift in the wrong way and
ขาซ้าย
you get injured.
ไปคนละทางไม่แก่ไม่ทุกข์ไม่รู้หรอกว่าแก่แล้วทุกข์ยังไง
People who are younger don't understand how being older is
ไม่
suffering.
เสียใจนะ ประสบการณ์ชีวิตเราสูงเราหัวเราะเย้อไอ้พวกหนุ่มสาวได้
But let's not be upset about
ยังไม่รู้จักชีวิตจริง
getting
นี่
old
พูดอย่างนี้
because we have more wisdom there. It helps to make the older people feel better.
ความแก่ความเจ็บความตายความพลัดพรากจากสิ่งที่รักการประสบ
So
กับสิ่ง
being
ที่ไม่รักอย่างเงี้ย
getting
ความไม่สม
old,
ปรารถ
getting
นา
ill,
นะ ความไม่สบาย
dying,
กายไม่
not
สบาย
getting
ใจ
what we
ความคับแค้น
want,
ใจอย่างเงี้ย
being apart from the
ทุก
things
คน
we
เรา
love,
รู้จัก
feeling an uncomfortable body or an uncomfortable mind. We're familiar with these things, but that's not the
ถ้าบอก
only
ความแก่
thing
เป็น
that
ทุ
the
กข์
Buddha
ความเจ็บ
taught
เป็น
was
ทุกข์
suffering.
เราก็จะไปนั่งคิดแล้วทำไงจะไม่แก่
If all we
ทำไงจะไม่เจ็บ
believed
ทำไง
was
จะไม่ตายทำไงจะไม่
that
พลัดพราก
getting
จากสิ่ง
old,
ที่รัก
ill,
ทำไงจะไม่ได้
dying,
สิ่ง
being
ที่รัก
apart from the
ส่ว
things
น
we
ไม่รู้
love,
เลย
or not getting what we
แม่ท่าน
want,
ก็สอน
if we thought those were the only things that were suffering, then we would just think, okay, so what do I do in order to make things not go that way?
ท่านก็พูดอย่างที่เล่านั่นแหละทุกข์อย่างนั้นแก่เจ็บตายอะไรต่ออะไรนั่น
But this type of
แล้วสุด
suffering,
ท้ายท่านก็ส
like
รุป
getting old and dying,
สังคิเตนะปัญจุปาทานะขันธาทุก
the
ขา
Buddha taught these things and then
โดยสรุป
summarized at the
ย่อ
end of that speech,
อุปาทานขันธ์ทั้งห้า
in
เป็นทุกข์
summary, the 5
เนี่ย
aggregates of clinging
ป
are
ริยั
suffering.
ติก็พอเราเห็นเงา ถ้าลง
So
มือปฏิบัติก็จะรู้ทุกข์แจ่มแจ้ง
we
ก็
can
พ้นทุกข์ได้
hear that or read
ถ้า
that,
เรียน
but we
ปริ
don't
ยัติก็
really
รู้
understand it
ตำรับ
when we
ตำรา
do.
นะ
We only
ไม่เห็น
understand
ส
that
ภาวะ
when we
ของทุกข์จริงๆ
practice
แล้วไม่พ้น
and
ทุกข์หรอก
see the true phenomena of
ถ้าพว
suffering
กเรา
in our experience. And
ฟังแล้วอาจ
it's
จะ
not
งง
until then that we can liberate from suffering.
โดยสรุปอุปาทานขันธ์ทั้งห้า
So a lot of us get confused when we hear the Buddha exclaim the 5 aggregates of clinging are
ขันธ์
suffering.
ห้า
Do we know these 5 aggregates?
พระพุทธเจ้านะสอนเราให้เรามาดูตัวเองนี่แหละ
The Buddha taught
แล้ว
us
สิ่งที่เรา
to
ได้คิดว่าเป็น
observe
ตัวเราเนี่ย
ourselves.
ถ้า
This
เรา
thing
แย
that
ก
we
มันเป็น
think
ส่
is
วน
ourself, if we
ๆ
separate
เรา
it
จะพบ
into
ว่าตัวเราหาย
components,
ไป
we'll notice that there isn't a
เราจะ
self
ทำ
and
ให้
the
มันทัน
self
เราคิด
feeling
ว่าทันจริง
disappears. It's like a
ๆ จากรถยนต์
car.
มาถอดเป็นชิ้นเล็กชิ้นน้อยนะรถยนต์หายไป
If it is
เหลือแต่ตัว
disassembled
เหลือ
into its
แต่ตัวถั
component,
งเหลือแต่
the
เบาะ
car disappears.
เหลือ
All
คน
that's
ขับ
left are the
เหลือ
tires and
เบาะ
the engine
เหลือ
and the steering
น็อตเหลื
wheel
อ
and
ส
the
กรูเหลือ
seats,
สายไฟ
locks
เหลือหลอดไฟ
and lights and bulbs. And
หลอดไฟก็ไม่ใช่รถยนต์ใช่ไหมสาย
the
ไฟก็ไม่ใช่
bulb,
รถยนต์
light bulbs are
ที่
not
เรา
a
จั
car.
บรถยนต์มาถอดเป็นชิ้นเล็ก
Electrical
ชิ้นน้อยร
wires
ถย
are
นต์ก็
not
หายไป
a car, right? The car completely disappears
พระพุท
when
ธ
we
เจ้าก็ส
separate
อน
it out into pieces.
ให้เรามาถอดสิ่งที่เรีย
So
กว่าตัว
Buddha
เราอะมาถอด
taught
เป็นชิ้นเล็กชิ้น
us
น้อย
to take this thing that we
แล้วเรา
believe to
ดู
be
ว่าชิ้น
ourselves
แต่
and
ละชิ้น
separate it
ไม่
into
มี
little
ตัวเราสัก
peoples
หน่อย
and see that each
วิ
one
ธี
of the
นี้
components
เรียกว่าวิภัช
has
ช
no
วิธี
self in it.
วิ
This
ภัช
is
ช
called
อ่านพอ
vipacha
เผาไม่หายกัดชอช้าง
method.
วิภัชชวิธีคือการเรียนรู้ความ
It
จริง
is learning
ด้วย
the
การ
truth
จำแนกด้วยการแยกแยะ
by way of
เพราะฉะนั้นถ้าเราจะรู้ทุกข์แจ่มแจ้ง
dismantling or separating
ขัน
out.
ธ์ห้านี่คือตัวทุกข์เนี่ยนะที่จริงเรารู้สึกไอ้ก้อนนี้คือทุกข์
So we feel that
นี่ท่านสอน
this
เรา
mass is
ให้
suffering.
ละเอียดก้อนเนี้ยประกอบด้วยอะไร
But the Buddha taught in detail, what does this mass here, what is it comprised of
ร่างกายเราเนี่ย
or composed of? Five
แยก
things.
แยกออกไป
One is the body,
เป็นแค่ธาตุ
the form or
ธาตุดิน
matter.
ธาตุน้ำธาตุ
That's
ไฟ
one of
ธาตุ
them.
ลม
But within form or matter, it can be separated into 4 elements from there. There isn't a person, there isn't a me, you, him, her, them. There's just elements like the fire, wind, earth, and water elements.
แต่เดิมมันก็อยู่ตามดาวเคราะห์น้อยเป็นน้ำโลกมันดูดเข้ามาได้น้ำเข้ามาเราอาศัยน้ำมารวมกับธาตุดิน
So the water element and the other elements come together, right? There's the water element, which is the attraction of things coming together, and then there's sort of the electric element of us, that's the fire element. There's the softness and hardness of the earth element and the movement of the wind element. These things come together to make a body. So when we learn the body truly and see within it, it's very hard to do, but we can separate it and see the truth that it's just these elements. And if the mind doesn't attain jhana, then we're not going to be able to observe the body, gain insight into the body at the level of the elements. If we don't practice jhana, we won't be able to do that. We'll just be busy thinking. It'll be an intellectual exercise, not truly seeing. But those that practice jhana are able to do this successfully. There is one man, I won't tell you who he is. He went to Wat Salawan. He went to Master Put. And I won't mention who this was. He wasn't a monk at the time. And he saw there was so much, it was disgusting because there was so much feces on the ground. You had to be careful when walking because you're going to step in poo anywhere you go. It's dog poo. And so it felt, it was disgusting. There was one pile of poo that had different colors in it, and flies were all over it. There was green. So we can take a picture. You can think about, what if a fly was right on a green turd and then came over and landed on the fly then landed on our face after that. Right? Are we just equanimous to that? I don't think so, right? It's gross and we feel yucky inside. But the mind of this person who was a good practitioner at meditation, the mind went into the feces, and with the power of his meditation, the aggregates of the feces were separated. The wind element disappeared that brings the scent, and it was in the experience of this practitioner, the heat from it disappeared as well, and it got cool, and then the watery element then disappeared. The fire element destroyed it, and all that was left was the earth element, dry. And the understanding was the solidity, the earth element of the feces, and the earth element of the earth itself, what was being stood on at the time, were just simply the same thing. When this person then explained it to Master Put, when the heart made a problem, the meditation was used to be able to resolve the problem by seeing the truth of the situation. The problem there was just feeling gross. So wisdom was able to decipher what was really there. A turd on the ground and the entire world are of the same substance. So if we're going to learn this body in the sense of the elements, it is an extremely hard practice. It's a vipassana that is suitable for those that are skilled in jhana practice. For most of us, we need to observe other things, not that. Instead, we're more vipassana mannered rather than samatha mannered, meaning those of us who aren't able to practice deep meditation, we have to practice in a different way and observe the mind. And then the samatha comes later. Or the deep meditation comes later. Right? So we use this method of separating out the pieces of something to see the truth. So if we're not able to separate into the elements, then that's not a problem. We can separate things in much more simple ways, like noticing the body's breathing out or it's breathing in. We can notice that all day. Or noticing the body standing, sitting, lying down, walking, separated into the different positions, or noticing the moving and shifting of the body. The body's either moving and shifting or it's not. It's still moving or it's still. That's happening all day long. If we're just noticing sitting, standing, walking, lying down, each of those positions stay for a long time. But if we're noticing just the little moving and shifting of the body, and then it's still and then it's shifting, we don't have to pretend to shift or do it on purpose. There's all kinds of different movements that happen regularly. The body just moves, right? There's a fly and we shoo it away. There's this and there's that movement. If we practice like that, there's some stories of people brushing their teeth, and the mind has samadhi arising, and then seeing that the arm is not us, just seeing that a portion of the body is just a mass, no person in it. But if we keep practicing, we'll see that this entire body is not a self at all. We're breathing out, breathing in, and aware of it. The mind gains samadhi, and then the wisdom can arise that sees that the body isn't us. The body that's breathing out isn't us. The body breathing in isn't us. If we're knowing the 4 positions of standing, lying down, sitting, walking, then we see the body sitting isn't us. The body walking, sitting, lying down is not us. It's just a material thing that's moving, elements coming in and out, like breathing in and out, and excrement and urine coming out, food coming in. No self, just things moving and changing. And the mind has samadhi. We can see that this thing that is moving and shifting this way and that way is just like a robot, not a person. So we keep studying, having mindfulness that recognizes the movements of the body. The mind gets really strong at doing this. After we noticing movements and shifts, the mind gets strong, and the mind separates from the body. And it separates automatically from seeing the body moving. And it occurs without trying to make it occur. The body's moving and shifting. And what happens is see the mind move down to the body, and then the mind moves down towards a part of the body, and then that is seen, and then the mind becomes the stable observer, and the mind that moves out disappears. So by observing physical movement, we can move to vipassana practice. and insight from there.
พุทโธพุทโธนะ
But if we're just using a mental exercise like Budo or chanting, and the mind is fixated on the mantra, then we can't achieve insight or vipassana. But if we do a chant in the mind or a mantra in the mind, and we do it in order to see the mind move, we see that when we're able to see the phenomena of the mind moving, that's a true phenomena, and that's something that vipassana can be practiced from seeing.
วัดป่าครูบาอาจารย์วัดป่าภาวนาไม่มีทางสำเร็จหรอกภาวนาพุทโธคือถ้าท่านท่องพุทโธนกแก้วนกขุนทองไม่สำเร็จหรอกก็จริงอย่างเขาว่าเพราะพุทโธ
Some people criticize the forest tradition of practicing with Budo, and they say, oh, there's no way there'll be any wisdom from doing that. Well, they're right if the forest tradition was just holding their attention at Budo the whole time, but that's not what they're doing. The masters say Budo, and we know the mind. The word Budo means the knower. So the master will Budo, 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 and then the mind escapes from the Budo, and then they know that it has left. Right? So that's knowing true phenomena. And as such, then liberation is certainly possible from seeing truth. But people that just criticize, they haven't really understood or learned how is it that they Budo? What is their approach with regards to practicing Budo? So many different techniques and practices can lead to enlightenment, and insight and enlightenment is just a matter of the approach with regards to what towards the meditation or meditation object of choice. So a lot of people don't really understand the truth or understand the practice, and they just read. They just read and then teach it. And some people pretend they're assistant teachers of Luangpa, and you have to take a look on Dhamma.com to see who Luangpa's assistant teachers are. Or the name of the page is Karawasatam, and those are the appointed assistant teachers. My assistant teachers have to have good knowledge and good behavior. I've ejected from the temple some people that have taught when I haven't told them to. Some people are at home and hear voices at home and think they know what happened to me, Luangpa, but they're wrong about it. Luangpa says, I have never asked for anything from anybody. So if there's anything where Luangpa is asking for anything, that's a scam. If you hear anything like that, a lot of people use my videos or media or materials in order to for their business. That's not what I'm here to do. I haven't asked for anything. I haven't asked from anyone. All I do is provide. He says when I was
คนมาเรียนกรรมฐาน
an office worker at TOT telephone company.
หลวงพ่อต้องเลี้ยงข้าวด้วยนะเลี้ยงข้าวเสร็จแล้วพาไปเลี้ยงกาแฟต่อก็สอนไปเรื่อยๆเนี่ยทุกวันนัดไว้5 คนทำไมไม่นัด10 คนสอนไม่ทันอ่ะนัดวันละ5 คนนะก็ใช้เงินเยอะนะในการสอนไม่ได้จ้างมานะขอมาแต่เราหิวข้าวสงสารนะ
I would teach at that time and tutor people in Dhamma at that time. And not only did I not take any money for it, but after work, we would meet and I would pay for dinner.
ชอบฉันนี่ก็โกหกนะเมื่อก่อนอยู่เมืองการที่เมืองการนะ
When I stayed in Kanchanaburi as a monk, sometimes there wasn't enough food. Not many people knew who I was, and there wasn't that much food. So the nun would make food every day and would buy some food to prepare.
ข้าวขาหมูมีคนไปเห็นโอ้หลวงพ่อชอบฉันข้าวขาหมูเรานะขาหมู
I was out and I was offered some pork leg, and so I was eating pork leg, and then somebody saw that I was eating pork leg and decided I love pork leg, and then all of a sudden I'd get pork leg donated all the time. So people don't know what, I've never asked for anything. I've never said that I like this or I like that or I want this or I want that. Some people will say, will say that Luangpa likes this or likes that food, and then they tell, some of the monks even talk about it, and then they say, if Luangpa likes that food, then I should have that food too. And then the monks will eat something they think that Luangpa likes, but Luangpa says, I've never declared such things.
ส่วนใหญ่ก็มีกินนะเพียงแต่ว่าปลายเดือนกินมาม่าเท่านั้นแหละ
Anyway, there was just enough to eat. Just sometimes at the end of the month, all there was left was instant noodles.
ร่างกายมีสติทำกรรมฐานอันหนึ่งก่อนแล้วคอยรู้ทันจิตตัวเองแล้วจิตจะตั้งมั่นเมื่อจิตมันตั้งมั่นได้
So let's learn about our own body and mind and have the mindfulness that sees the body and mind. And we'll see that if sati or mindfulness recognizes the body, it'll see that it isn't us. And the feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, if that is seen by mindfulness, it'll be seen eventually that these things aren't us. And we'll see that the memory and perception that it isn't us either. It's about memory, and then there's also interpretation, and both these things, sometimes they are interpreting correctly and sometimes incorrectly. But as unenlightened beings, there will be incorrect interpretation all the time, because the unenlightened person believes that things that are suffering are happy things, things that are beautiful are not beautiful things, believes they're beautiful. Things that are not a self believes they're a self, things that are not suffering, things that are impermanent and believes they're permanent. So the perception is incorrect for unenlightened people. Regarding mental formations, the fourth aggregate, the memory and perception was the third aggregate. Regarding the fourth one, the mind is fabricating states, good states, bad states, wholesome, unwholesome, all the time. None of these things are a self. If the mind is the stable observer, it'll see that all these things are not a self. Anger isn't us. Greed isn't us. And we see all these things are not a self. And then finally, we'll be able to see that the mind itself, the fifth aggregate, the consciousness aggregate, is not a self either. You can see that the consciousness, when it's seeing, is at the eye, and it's seeing an object. Or the consciousness hearing is at the ear. It's the ear consciousness. Hearing. And so the consciousness is something that moves. It's at the eye and then it's at the ear. There are actually 121 different types of consciousnesses or minds that arise and fall. It's too many to teach, but you can study all that. But those that study all that, they don't actually see it. They just are memorizing it, especially the enlightenment minds or the jhana minds that can occur. Those that just study theory, they don't see those in their own experience. At most, they can see just the minds that are existing in the sense desire, sense pleasure realms. There are too many to teach all these details. The Buddha didn't teach regular people these things. He taught that there's the five aggregates. He taught, and then simply with regards to the fifth aggregate, the consciousness, that there is the mind that moves to the body, that moves to the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, and goes to think. But the mind actually is at one place and then falls away and then arises as the stable observer. If the mind has samadhi, if it doesn't, then the mind is out at these things all the time. But if the mind is the stable observer, then the stable observer disappears, and then the mind that's going to look at an object arises, and then that falls away, and then the mind that goes to the ear arises and hears at the ear, and then that disappears, and the mind goes to into thought and arises in the thoughts and then disappears there. So then if we're able to have the stable observer, we're able to see that the mind is the stable observer, and then it is not. It runs around to the different senses, and there's no way to control this, whether the mind is in thought or listening or at the eyes, for example, isn't something that is chosen. It is things that happen on its own. So when the mind moves to the thought, then no so. The mind moves to the meditation object, then no so. And the mind that moves will disappear, and then the mind that is the stable observer will appear in its place. And then we'll be able to see that there isn't an us, there isn't an ours. And the one who is able to see that is the stream enterer. So let's have the goal of being the stream enterer first. If we want to get higher than that, we can talk about that later. มันก็จะได้ยินได้ฟังธรรมะอันนั้นขึ้นมาแล้วจะเกิดความรู้ถูกเข้าใจถูกขึ้นมาตรงที่เราเห็นทุกอย่างไม่ใช่เราเนี่ยยังไม่เรียกว่าเห็นทุกข์นะ We have to understand that when we see that there is no self, that doesn't mean we have seen suffering. When we see suffering, we'll see the suffering of the body first. The body is not a self, and that's completely understood at the level of the stream enterer already. But then as wisdom gets more refined, then it'll be seen that the body is nothing but suffering. There's just extreme suffering and minor suffering, but there's nothing other than suffering in the body that, or of the body, that arises, sustains, or passes away. The body is just utterly and completely suffering. That has to be seen utterly and clearly in order for the mind to release the body. And then at the final stage of practice, it is seen that the mind itself is also only suffering. Right? All there is extreme suffering and minor suffering, but it's only suffering. And then when that is seen utterly and clearly, then suffering is completely understood and the mind is released as well. Can we handle that? That everything is suffering and nothing other than suffering happens, sustains, or passes? If we're able to see that, that's knowing suffering. Once we know suffering, then the cause of suffering is eliminated, because when suffering is seen, the truth of suffering is seen, then ignorance is eliminated. And then the truth is seen and nibbana is experienced. Nibbana is the state of no more wanting, no more craving, no more desire. And that is the complete completion of the path, the noble path. So the Eightfold Path has moral, mental, and wisdom training, and we have to develop these things a little at a time, walking along the path until everything comes together and everything is complete. And the 7 parts of the Eightfold Path will all come together at the mind, at the samadhi, at the 8th, which is samadhi. And the power of all that and the completion of all that will achieve the liberation. Are there still aggregates at that point? There are aggregates, but the mind is not grasping at or clinging to aggregates. There is nibbana experienced. Are there aggregates? Does the Arahant have aggregates? Yes, there are aggregates, especially that's why the Buddha taught that there are 2 different nibbanas. There's the nibbana while still alive and the one after the final passing. So the mind is transcendent or above the world, is not in the aggregates, but the mind is free and liberated and boundless, not bound to anything. The mind doesn't move in or sink into anything. So do the eyes see? Yes. Is there the consciousness at the eye? Yes. So there is that aggregate, but the Arahant doesn't sink into it, isn't involved in it. It's there, but no involvement. So let's study this, because a Buddha doesn't arise in the universe very often, and the teachings are available. But these teachings are going against the stream. Going against the stream of what? The stream of defilements. So while there is still the Buddha's teachings, let's hurry up and practice and keep the precepts and practice formally every day. Have the main object for the mind, and then observe the behavior of the mind. And then we'll be able to develop wisdom, and eventually nibbana, or liberation, will occur. I thought I would teach just a short talk today, but it ended up long. Some of the masters, like Luangpu Tet, he only talked for 20 minutes. Number one, I'm old now. I am diligent in practicing, trying to liberate, but the mind is not strong. The body is weak, and I feel discouraged. And when I listen to you, I feel strong and get diligent. I try to observe phenomena. I see that the body can't be controlled. I notice that there are ups and downs all the time. I'll keep trying. Can I have advice? You practice well, you're practicing correctly. Keep going. Don't look for results, because if we're looking for results, then there is craving and desire in the mind, and there'll be no liberation. So just keep knowing the body and knowing the mind, and then eventually we'll see that there's nothing other than uncertainty, and we won't attach anymore. And when we don't attach, there'll be no suffering. Keep going, you do well. Use the body as your home base for the mind, because you'll see that there's pain, there's illness, but when there's not liking, then know that that's there. And then see the body, see the mind as they are impartially. There's still a possibility of freeing your mind from suffering. Let's not think that there isn't. Number two.
ร่วมกับเดินจงกรมพอลมหายใจเริ่มนิ่งจะพิจารณากายใจว่าไม่เที่ยงเป็นทุกข์ไม่สามารถสั่งได้ชีวิตประจำวันดูความรู้สึกตนเอง
I see that the body or mind are things that can't be controlled. I try to observe the feelings and emotions and see them when they arise. I notice that my attention sinks into these things. I believe in my own thoughts. Your mind is restless. It's a busy one. So practice some samatha. Maybe if you're not good at it, then just keep chanting. Chant over and over again, and you actually can achieve samadhi from that. Your mind's too busy. So you have to practice more samatha. Number three, you're good.
รักษาศีลได้ดีขึ้นในรูปแบบใช้การเดินจงกรมกับนั่งสมาธิดูร่างกายหายใจประมาณ 30-60 นาทีในชีวิตประจำวันจะเห็นร่างกายหายใจเองได้บ้าง
I follow the precepts much better. I notice the body breathing sometimes. I find that I tend to overfocus, sometimes a lot, sometimes a little, but it's never the same. I try to fix things, but it's never successful. Sometimes the mind relaxes out of things. Am I practicing with the right meditation object? Yes, you've developed well. And the fact that you can't fix things, that's correct. In Vipassana, there's no such thing as fixing or maintaining. It's just knowing things as they are. You practice well, number three. Number four.
เบอร์สี่เดินจงกรมวันละ 3-5 ชั่วโมงมีวิหารธรรม
I walk 3 to 5 hours a day. I'm with the body and know the mind that strays from it. I find that I get caught in thoughts for long periods of time. And I just keep practicing. You're practicing correctly. The mind is better. You look lighter and clearer. And can you see that this world is empty of substance? The mind that's able to see that sees that nothing really everything is sort of nonsensical. So just don't try to achieve results and just keep practicing. Number five, I practice to be a bodhisattva. I notice when my mind gets involved in certain visions or images, the mind has a lot of samadhi, but I'm not sure if I'm just fabricating, and I believe I have samadhi. So this knower arises, and how do I develop wisdom? You have to be able to see that the knower is not, you can't fabricate this knower. It's something that arises out of seeing the mind go to its different channels. So as a bodhisattva, you have to look at the barami, the perfections, and then see which ones are weak, and then keep developing all those barami. So take a look at them and see which ones you're weak in. So whoever wants to be a bodhisattva, that's fine. I don't look down on that. I just we've all made mistakes in the past and work to improve qualities. I have to sit here and teach still, because not just only because of good things that I've done.
บางทีที่เห็นก็ไม่ได้ดับลงในทันทีหากเป็นเรื่องที่รบกวนจิตใจมากเห็นอารมณ์โกรธแต่อารมณ์หลงยังตามไม่ทัน It's hard to notice the mind getting lost in and getting to notice delusion. I can notice anger. That's an easier thing to see. What you're practicing is good and correct. Have mindfulness regularly, and the development will occur by itself. Number 7. I practice formally every day, seeing the body breathing and the mind is the knower. My mind gets absorbed in the breath, and I want to receive results. I try to keep the precepts well and observe my feelings. Sometimes the mind is good, sometimes it's angry and irritated. I understand that life is temporary, but I can't really accept it. Just keep practicing. Practice a lot, and the development will continue. Your practice is good. Number 8. ปิดวาจามา2 ปีกว่าตามหลวงพ่อสั่งสอนเมื่อตาเห็นแล้วเห็นความคิดเกิดขึ้นรู้ว่ามันเป็นเอง I practice according to your teachings. I see things arise out of control. Is this just memory, or is this actual understanding? Is it wisdom? Yes, it is wisdom. What you're practicing is good. Wisdom is an understanding of the mind. So if you see things over and over again, you see them often, then the wisdom keeps developing. That's all for today.